This is the Balanced Growth Show with Dr. Travis Perry, helping successful business professionals like you achieve balance in their lives.
Welcome to another episode of the Balanced Advisor Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Travis Perry. Today we have in studio with us Mary Schmid. Mary is an author, speaker, and mentor to CEOs and financial professionals. She shows how to practically use the neuroscience of conversations to build connection and engagement that builds the bridge to trust. Welcome, Mary, to the show.
Hi, Travis. Thank you for having me on the show and sharing with your audience.
Absolutely. You talk about trust as the result of conversations that we lead. And you have a book, Make or Break Conversations, which we'll talk more about throughout the podcast. Tell me, how did you get into helping financial professionals and advisors and CEOs with this idea of trusting conversations?
I got into this specialty of working with CEOs and financial professionals because I was a skeptic of the industry, having had several experiences, 3 experiences that left me wondering, do they really listen to me? Do they really care? I don't think so. They had the right solutions and the right ideas, but they never really connected with me. So when something would come up, I got the message up, well, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And it's not that they were bad people, and it's not that it was bad advice. I just couldn't do it, but I didn't have the courage to stand up and say, I don't know how to do this. So along came a financial advisor, and he said, well, I want to work with you. And I thought, well, okay, fine. I said, I really wrote the industry off. I'll work with him. He's paying me this time. I'm not paying him. So we did the work together, and we, in the work that I do, we did a role play. And I thought, oh my gosh, this guy is really good. And I almost lost myself in the conversation because he was that good. And then I caught myself and I said, well, of course he's good. I taught him and he's using what I'm teaching. And I became his client, which was a forever relationship. Along the way, I've met other financial advisors, and I was a little skeptic that this would work or that they would be willing and receiving to take a different approach to how they lead the conversations, which led to the work that I did. And I talk about these folks in All Star Financial. And the result is that they said, well, now I know how and why to build trust quickly and ethically. And so using the work and the success that my clients have had, I've sprungboard primarily into financial professionals. Because it's not that people have an ability to trust. We need to lead a different conversation to bring that out. And neuroscience provides us the keys on how we do that.
I studied psychology and human development, and there is great energy around this idea of studying the neuroscience, studying how our brain interacts, what lights up when someone does this or that and the other. And so I love these conversations. Super fun. I don't want to geek out too much, but tell us a little bit more about the neuroscience here. Give us some quick overviews for those of us who don't study the brain on a regular basis.
I'd love to. So it's really quite simple. When we're in a conversation, our brain either lights up that we move into protection, and our brain is overrun with cortisol. We can't even think what to say. We stop listening to the person that is talking to us. We check out. Or our conversations can open up the prefrontal cortex. I call that the green light. That's where trust lives. And that's where our executive functioning of problem solving, working together, partnership, creative thinking happens. And when we open up when we turn the green lights on, that's what builds trust, because our brain is now open to listening and receive and working together. So I think it's our responsibility to figure out, to understand that, and then apply that to the conversations that we lead. Because when you know how people's brain reacts in conversations, it's like red lights going on, green lights going on. We either shut people down or we can open them up. And our job is to figure out how do we, in our own words, our own voice, and our own personality, devise conversations that will do exactly that. Because it's not magic, and it's not a script, and it's not woo-woo. It's science.
Yeah, so good. And there's, various connection elements that our brain likes to release, right? That create those conversations that are more trusting. And I love that you talked about the cortisol, you talked about the brain lighting up in different areas. So as we talk about these trusting conversations, we're also going to mingle in, balance and how what you're doing for advisors, what you're struggling with balance, what does balance really mean, and how advisors can utilize these skills to help them build their business, which is a big part of balance. You want to have, balanced advisors, balanced achievers are really achieving in their personal life as well as their business life. And they've got a great, balance, not necessarily equilibrium, but a balance throughout. So we're going to talk about this side of it today. But of course, these skills that you talk about in your book, obviously they're transferable, right? Back to our own personal conversations. So there's a lot of overlap here, Mary, and I appreciate it. So let's dive in. Let's talk about balance. What is your idea of balance? You've been in the industry, you've been serving advisors. What is your idea of balance?
I have two ideas. One is this whole balance between being a technical expert, which you need to be. There's no two ways around that, as well as then being able to translate that into conversation. So the balance that I teach is you are an expert. You know all this financial, you don't have the financial solutions for me, but I don't, as a client, I don't know that. So how do you communicate that through to your client so that they can open up and tell you what's really on their mind without overpowering them with your technical expertise. So the balance comes between the technical and the personal relationship. The second level of balance that I think about is how this work helps advisors stop a lot of the chasing and following and repetition that they do when they don't have a conversation where they get from the client what the client wants, what really matters to them, and engage with them about how will we in partnership take the next step. So 2 levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. What have you seen as these levels? This is very interesting. What have you seen as these levels as they've maybe developed over time with you? How have they changed?
The levels of conversation?
Right.
They don't change. But what we do is we learn how to integrate them to maximum value. So I'll give you an example. A level 1 conversation is where you do all the telling and all the talking. You get a few facts and a few informations, and then you say to your client, well, based on this is what you need to do. And we lay out the plan. This is the next step, and this is what you need to do. Well, that really backs people into a corner because they haven't been heard, and the whole piece of what matters to them hasn't been expressed by them. You assume that you know what they know, and which is not much. And so you're going to tell them exactly what I need to do. So it'd be just like I would say to you, well, Travis, this is a great interview. What you need to do is this, and this. How would you respond? Not well.
Not so good.
Well, you would shut down because you think like, you don't even know me. There's nothing more. So telling conversations turn on the red. They back people into a corner and they shut down. But most financial advisors are smarter than that, right? So they lead what I call a level 2 conversation. And that conversation is simply like, I'm going to ask a few questions because I know that's what I've been taught to do. So I'm going to ask a few questions and then sort of get the lay of the land. And then I have the right to tell them what I think they need to do. Now, here's the deal. If you and I both agree in a level 2 conversation, we collaborate. You'll do this and I'll do that. That's fine. That's fine. There's some trust there. But the slippery slope of a level 2 is when I really don't see things the way that you do, and you start bringing out your charts, your graphs, your software, your expertise, your power over me. I am the expert. You are the client. And so here is the facts, the figures, the statistics. Here's why you need to do what you need to do. And then we close it out by simply saying, you would agree, right? And that is a slippery slope that is easy to get into because it's easy to talk about what we want to do and what we are and who we are and our process and our credentials, but it leaves no room for the client. And so they leave thinking like, what was this conversation all about? So there's a level 3 conversation and where that takes place. And we need to use more of level 3 because it allows a client to express what they want, to share with you what's important to them, and to discover things that they may not have discovered before. We call that a transformational conversation because it really transforms how people see you and how they see themselves. And we do that by, opening up the conversation and letting them do the talking and asking not just questions, open-ended questions, Travis, but questions that we don't have the answer for. Like, well, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. What was the impact on you? How did you come to think about that? Where do you want to go with this? Totally transforms because all of a sudden, what you're doing is you're showing me that you're listening. You're showing me that you're caring. You're showing me that you want to help me by being my partner rather than just be words on the wall. You're actually showing to the client through the words that you use and the conversations that you lead that you're open to discover and share with them.
Yeah.
Totally transforms everything.
Well, and then it's more of a partnership as you're discussing and conversing. It seems like more on the same page, right? More collaborative versus competing. I can see how you were talking about, the telling conversations that really become a competition, though I need to convince someone versus listening and transforming. We talk all the time about transformation and how that's needed in your business so that you can retain and keep great clients. But this is very interesting talking about the transformational effects of conversation, right? Not just product offering or system, but you as the individual being the lead to transforming. This is fascinating. How do you think understanding these levels have, let's just talk about advisors. How can this information help advisors to have greater balance in their work?
How this can help advisors is that that there's a couple ways. The first way thing that comes to my mind is they no longer feel responsible and have the burden of showing, improving, and demonstrating everything in the conversation. When they know how to insert more of level 3, they can relax and be present in the conversation and know that what the client says is the guide to how they lead the conversation. So we don't have this big, huge anxiety or pressure on us that we have to have the right answers. We have to know everything. We share with our clients and help them get to where they want to go. It also helps, Travis, in terms of people being committed to the process, being committed to you. They want to be engaged with you. They want to do the work with you because they've had this experience that you're their partner and their guide, and together we will create how we're going to get there.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, together is this journey, right? We're going on this together along the way. So let's say we're at level 3. We're having these conversations. It's allowing us to have less anxiety, stress about being present in the conversation, which I love, because I think a lot of balance is how we're thinking and feeling about our stress levels. Are we bringing that to work? Are we taking that home back with us? So let's move into this idea, like we're in a level 3 conversation. How does that help an advisor grow one's business or practice? How does this allow them to now utilize these skills? I mean, it might seem, well, Travis, I mean, it's going to help me gain more clients, but let's talk more on the science of this, Mary, as you've seen it, as you've been able to help other advisors do just that.
So what I've seen and what my clients tell me is that with this reduced level of stress of having to perform, if you will, in these conversations, they have the energy and the freedom to be who they are. And so that greatly reduces their stress level. They have the balance because when clients experience this kind of conversation, they want to work with you. And so that whole piece about chasing and running of trying to collect people in is totally reversed because you're bringing in, so instead of pushing people to tell them what to do, you're bringing people and you're pulling them to you. And that really helps in terms of the confidence level that we have to lead these kinds of conversations. And as you mentioned earlier, Travis, it's not just about the conversations that we have with our clients. When we insert more of level 3 and really discover what's important to people and connect the dots with what's important to them and how I can help them and be of service to them, it's not just with your clients. It's with your team. It's with your vendors. And guess what? It's with your family.
Yeah, let's talk about the family side. We've been talking about business a little bit. Elaborate a little bit on that, Mary. How does this help grow, strengthen those relationships with your family to be at these level 3 conversations?
So I'll give you an example, if I may, to sort of highlight that. I had an advisor and I said, so instead of coming home and simply saying, wow, this is a really tough day and on and on and on, stop all that. Stop all that. When you first enter the door, ask your partner, and how was your day? And what was good about that? And then pause and really listen to them. Well, he said, that's too simple and that's not going to work. And I said, I think it will. I think it will just open up instead of it being this like, it's so tough. It's so tough. It opens up to include them in. So when they're done saying what's their day was like and what's good about that, then it's your turn. And so what if we did that instead? And he came back and simply said, I can't believe it. I came home and I did that. And she looked at me and she said, what has happened to you? You all of a sudden care about me and how my day was, how the kids went. He goes, yeah, I do. And sometimes I can't always put that in words, but I'm trying something new. How do you like it? She goes, I love it.
So I have a PhD in family relations. We talk about reflective listening. Communication skills are the number one area where researchers like to pinpoint problems in relationships, mainly because of a whole bunch of different theories I'm not going to spend a lot of time getting into. So I agree, like communication is huge. However, I think you kind of touched on something that goes a little bit deeper, and that is like the way in which one connects. It's not just what you say, but it's your meaning. Right. And, so maybe even just changing that connection meaning, what's behind it? Well, how do you really feel? Are you just giving lip service? Because I know for a fact that women see right through that, right? Like this, they're not dumb. When it comes to conversations, they are the king and queen. Like they take the cake on most of this. They've been trained, if not born with abilities far beyond most males to understand conversations. Like I've seen this research. So, I think a lot of advisors, they're hearing this, well, yeah, this is reflective listening skills. This isn't necessarily something that they're taught in the CFP program, although psychology is becoming to be a bigger part of this. It should be. These are these soft, quote unquote, soft skills that can be very difficult because we're not taught them through our profession. But most that survive, the good advisors, they learn these skills. They perfect these skills. Am I right?
Exactly. These are skills that are learnable. And when we understand that science behind it and why this works, it makes it even easier to integrate into your conversations and your practice and with the people that you love.
So good. Yeah, because I love this. I love, it's not just listening skills, but it's really collaboration. It's these level 3 conversations. It will help you at work. You'll retain clients, you'll connect with them, but it will also help you in your personal life to retain great connection with your most important relationships. So I love the work that you're doing, Mary. I really do. What would you say on a personal level that you maybe struggle with the most as a business owner, someone who's trying to get this advice to other advisors and professionals? What is, maybe your biggest struggle with keeping a really good balance, but growing your business?
It's a good question. I have to think about that for a second because no, I don't. I know the answer to that. And how do I keep my balance? Well, structurally, I have a calendar that I follow. I have my task list. I have my goals and objectives. I have all of that in front and center. And most days, not 100%, Travis, but most days I really do follow it, because what it does is at the end of the day, it gives me the freedom to have done the work that I need to do and grow the way that I want to grow for my family. Because I have, I'm a widow, but I have my daughter lives 3 miles away, and I have 2 grandchildren, 9 and 11, and they are the apple of my eye. And it gives me the opportunity, like today, it's my grandson's birthday, and my daughter just texted me and said, well, he's homesick. Well, I'm not going to wait till the birthday party at 6:00. I'm going over as soon as we're done, because it makes me happy. The one thing that I struggled with is that I have a business, and I don't even know, people give it different names. They call it a lifestyle business, or working part-time, or a boutique business. And so what I've struggled with along the way is people saying the only way you're going to be successful is if you grow to this amount. And I thought about that, and I tried that, and I thought, this doesn't fit with my personality. The work that I do is deep, it's significant, and I enjoy most creating these incredible one-on-one relationships where I get to see people literally transform through the work that I do. And so I had to get over that thing about, what other people think I should do versus what I want to do. And like you suggest in your book, it all starts with, what are your values? What are your values, and what makes you tick, and how are you going to design and deliver what it is that brings you joy?
Yeah,
so that's
100%.
been the struggle with balance. I think I'm at a good point now, because I have, a very clear definition of who I am and what I do and why this is important. My work is important because it helps. So if I can teach one advisor, it's going to impact thousands of people. And that's sort of the why, but bigger than that is I get to do what I want to do. And that, I don't want to sound cocky or brazen. I'm really good at this. And when you find that sweet spot of what you're really good at, the rest falls in place. But it's really getting, like you say, honing in on your values and defining for you what's important and how you want that to look, and then deciding what are you willing to do about that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's values. It's always values, and relationships. It's what do we share in these values? How are we relating to those values, and where is our common ground? So paramount for conversations to really turn into great relationships, right?
Yes.
And I think the really great listeners, the really great conversers, they find where the common ground is. They look for the shared values. They look for where they can build bridges versus trying to compete to slam the other. Obviously we've got a lot of examples of that in politics and news and anything that we jump on that's quite honestly just popular these days. But I love the fact that as you're teaching these, you're focused in on goals that help you to stay balanced, and that you have that in front of you, ever present, that you can see where your values are, and then at a moment's notice, you will act on those values. Oh, my family, super important. Boom, drop everything. That's where I'm going to go. 100%. I love that about what you just said. Let's talk about advisors in general. You and I work with a lot of advisors, a lot of business owners, a lot of advisors who are trying to be business owners, right? Trying to get away from their practice, become an owner of their business. So as you're helping and teaching and coaching them to have these level 3 conversations, what is it that you see with the industry as a whole where they struggle with keeping balance while growing their practice?
I think there's a couple places that I see that. And I think the one is that they don't have systems and processes clearly in place. Now, I'm not systems and process is not my original language, to be quite honest. I like to do what I want to do when I want to do it because it makes me feel good. But when you really examine and create systems and processes around the work that you do and how you do your work, it ultimately gives you freedom. And so when I do the work that I do, the whole piece of work that I do, it's a system and it's a process and it's a discipline. And so you have to commit to doing that. Will you get results overnight? And is it a magic bullet? No, it's only about the amount of effort that you're willing to put in. And I think that there's so many ideas and so much technology out there that people, advisors in particular, say, oh, this will do it, and this will do it, and this will do it. Well, the technology may help support the back end or the back end of the business or the portfolio construction and all those things. And that's good. But at the end of the day, it's all about creating your skill to have those personal relationships. So I think advisors struggle with that because I think they know that it's important, but they don't know how to access it. And I think that they think, well, here, just give me this script and it'll work. But you know what? It doesn't work because it has to be your own words coming from you. That's what clients will say is authentic. I think lots of people say, well, we're here to service you. We're here for your good. But they don't demonstrate that in their conversations. Their conversations end up backing people into corner, trying to sell them on an idea or project or plan or policy. And they miss the whole point. And I say, it's like this. When the time is right and you lead the right conversation, the client will know. They will sense by how you are present. They will sense your energy. And that's science. They sense the energy that you're there to help them and to serve them, not sell them. So I think there's a lot of words that have been given that, no, I don't sell, I serve, or I'm in the client's best interest. But the way that you lead your conversations don't demonstrate that. And there's a disconnect there.
Yeah. Cognitive psychologists call this cognitive dissonance.
Right.
Where they're looking at the energy or the action doesn't meet what it is that you're thinking. And that actually does cause stress, Mary. That's been researched quite well. And, a really quick, definition of this, or example of this would be, when you get to that on the road, you're driving and it turns yellow. If you hesitate to slam on the brakes or slow down appropriately, or, you decide you're going to go through the intersection, that moment of hesitation oftentimes brings a little bit of stress because you're not sure what to do, or, you should stop, but you're late. And so you go through the intersection going, no, I'm kind of risking it here. That is cognitive dissonance at a very base level that we all, I think, can relate to of, I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm doing it anyway, or vice versa. And I 100% can see this in advisors who say one thing, yet deliver something totally different. Yeah. The client is not dumb. The client will recognize that what's going on, and they will feel that stress, and they will not want to continue and they might not be able to identify why, but in their minds, they will recognize that something is wrong. And it won't be a long-term relationship.
And what's interesting is there's science. Not only is it that's cognitive dissonance, there's neuroscience to support that, and that is, so for example, advisors know that they need to talk less and listen more, and they say that they do it, but they don't, because as soon as they start talking and they get on a roll, the dopamine kicks in, the reward center kicks in, and they talk more, and the more they talk, the more they talk, and the less they listen and more they talk. And then some will even get the idea, well, I don't think I'm making my point. And that's where, they gesture, they talk louder, they talk faster, and they've lost the client. They've lost their connection with the client, and the client long ago has checked out. And that's stressful because they know what they're supposed to do, but they don't have the tools and the awareness that, that's how your brain is wired, but you can manage yourself in the conversation in a way that you know how to react so that you don't talk all the time, and that you can really settle in and listen more. Yeah.
Great stuff. We could talk about this. We could converse about this for hours. And I think this is so fun when you and I got to know each other, all of the research and stuff you've done around this very specific area, because I love it, but this is not my specialty. But I do teach, conversation ethics and rules around this, especially on the personal side, to help you. In the book, you saw this a little bit, but really to help with accountability partners of your own spouse or family to help you achieve your goals, both inside and outside of work. So this is a skill that absolutely can be developed, and it is vital to both your growth inside the business and your balance outside of the business. So I appreciate you being here on the show. What advice, if you were to leave something with the advisors today and financial professionals who are listening, what advice would you tell them on how to get from level 1 or level 2 to a level 3?
Most of us lead conversations that are level 1 and level 2. We tell people what to do, or we persuade them to do the best thing. And so my best advice would be just be aware of the level that you're speaking to your clients. And when you catch yourself in telling people, selling people, persuading people, influencing that competitive, like, I'm going to win this conversation, I'm going to win this client, just stop, take a breath, and ask a question instead. Because when you ask a question, all that brain noise that's going around about you gets transformed into what about them? So that's the question that I always ask. And what about them? So when a client, and what about you? I've been doing all the talking. I've been doing all the preaching. Let's stop that, because what about you? I want to know, what about you? Quick way to interrupt the brain activity that's all about you and reset the conversation.
So good. Appreciate this conversation. This has been enlightening.
Thank you.
It hopefully has helped advisors out there to relook at how these conversations can help them have better balance in life general, but also to increase and grow their business by retaining and attracting new clients through having great conversations. Thank you, Mary, for being
welcome,
here.
Travis. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah. And thank you to the listeners for enjoying this conversation, hopefully as much as we have, by being a fly on the wall and letting us banter back and forth about stuff that we really love. And so thank you, listeners. If you love this, like, share. Maybe there's somebody out there who needs to hear what Mary was talking about today that allow them to have better balance and growth in their life. Until next time, remember, everyone, live life on purpose.